Be seated. I request our chair and moderator, Ms. Mukta Jain, Country Lead India Clean Air Fund, to commence the discussion, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope I'm audible. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mukta Jain. I represent the Clean Air Fund in India. It is a global philanthropic initiative working towards a world where everyone can breathe clean air. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this significant session on India as the global innovation hub for clean air solutions at the 18th Sustainability Summit organized by the Confederation of Indian Industry. Today we gather here to collectively delve into the issue of air pollution, a challenge that transcends geographical boundaries and affects the well-being of every living being on this planet. It is well recognized that air pollution is one of the biggest threats to the environment and to public health. In addition, the Clean Air Fund and CII had conducted deep research in 2021, and we figured out that air pollution costs Indian businesses about 95 billion USD, which is 7 lakh crores, every fiscal year as business impact, around 3% of India's total GDP. This cost is equal to 50% of all tax collected annually, or 150% of India's healthcare budget. Government of India has recognized the importance of tackling air pollution and has taken some steps to drive action under the National Clean Air Program. Being a cross-sectoral issue, however, air pollution needs concerted efforts from every stakeholder in the ecosystem. There is an urgent need for practical solutions and innovative approaches to measure, evaluate, and reduce air pollutant emissions, which is an opportunity and a call to action to the private sector to lead the change. The India CEO Forum for Clean Air, managed by CII, brings together business leaders committed to clean air action to address air pollution at source and strengthen the narrative for positive change. I'm pleased to share that 102 decision makers, CXOs, have signed up for the forum's declaration for clean air. Forum members are supporting dedicated projects, such as airshed management in the cities of Pune, Indore, a crop residue management program under the banner of CII Cleaner Air, Better Life, which is a remarkable example of a collaborative and well-coordinated CSR effort. It has been recognized by UNDP and Global Development Network and is being now scaled to 300 villages across 12 districts in Punjab and Haryana. The forum is also focused on business solutions to address air pollution. You can access these case studies on the Dynamic Clean Air Library. Just to close the opening remarks, we further need concerted efforts from all stakeholders, as I mentioned, in the air quality ecosystem to drive clean air action. Our esteemed panel of experts here today represents some of the industry experts and brilliant minds working towards clean air and sustainable solutions. We are honored to have them share their insights, experiences, and ideas to position India as a global innovation hub in this crucial area. So without further ado, I welcome my panelists, and I'll briefly introduce everyone. Mr. Manas Human, co-founder, managing director, Nagaro. Manas is deeply involved in philanthropic initiatives, being the NASSCOM chairperson, Regional Council for Haryana, founder trustee at Plaksha University and Rahagiri Foundation, and co-creator with Haryana Vision Zero, Mr. Dimitri Trubetsin, founder of Air Voice, which provides air quality monitoring and management solutions to enterprises and cities. Dimitri is the founder and investor of Get a Class, a YouTube channel on physics, which is an interesting tidbit I didn't know earlier. Dr. Shantanu Satpathy, lead environment and sustainability, Aprava Energy, who has more than 20 years of experience on sustainability-driven innovation and ESG. Mr. Shubham Singh, co-creator and CEO of Crust, who brings a lot of passion and rich experience to contribute to a sustainable future through innovative materials and a circular economy structure. And Mr. Vidyut Mohan, co-founder and CEO of Takachar, a social enterprise addressing open crop residue burning and improving rural livelihoods at the same time. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for making the time today for this important conversation. I hope to learn from you all. To begin the panel discussion, I'm going to throw open a question to all my panelists here. And in the interest of time, and also being mindful that we are towards the end of the day, and everybody may be a little bit exhausted, we are going to keep it very lively and interactive. There are no presentations. It's going to be open, and we will leave time at the end for Q&A as well. So here goes. Does India truly have the potential to lead the world towards innovative clean air solutions? What are the top 3 enablers that can drive this transformation? Start with you, Manas.
Thank you, Mugdha. I honestly believe that India does have the fundamental enablers to drive clean air innovation. The first enabler is that we have one hell of a problem, right? We have a huge problem. The most polluted country, the most polluted cities at least in the world, right? And the second thing is we have a media that is open and free. And since President Obama's visit in 2015 is seized of this topic. At that time, Obama came to India and they brought a few thousand air purifiers with them. Before that, no one talked air pollution in India. But after that, there has been considerable discussion about air pollution, at least in the media. So we have that. That's a great enabler, along with the middle class that can probably purchase these solutions or fund these solutions. And finally, we have a government that is known for some bold steps, including with technology. So the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, right? Very bold. Or UPI, for example, right, with technology. So I think that the enablers are there. There are lots of things that are not there. I can talk about them later. But yes, there are enablers for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you, Manas. Can we hear from you, Dimitri?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Thank you for having me here. It's an honor for me to be a part of this event and a part of this community. Well, answering your question, so I, as a technology entrepreneur, really believe that India has a great potential to become a global epicenter for clean air innovations. India can attract international investors, international high-tech startups in this field. And yes, you have it all. You have very good universities, you have entrepreneurs, you have bright and ambitious minds, and the most important part that you already have a huge potential internal domestic clean air market. That's very important. And another important thing is that you already have successful projects, successful examples of effective collaboration between industry, policymakers, university. I'm talking about Clean Air Better Life project by CII, and we are really proud that our Air Voice is taking part in this initiative, bringing to the table our extensive expertise for the cities of Indore and Pune. So I believe that India is that place where technological companies, technological startups will start from solving these global clean air problems. That's my understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderfully articulated, Dimitri. And shall we hear from you, Shantanu? What are your thoughts?
Thanks, Mugdha. And my thought is, in fact, last week I was in my hometown, Odisha, and Cuttack and Bhubaneswar, these are the cities 15, 20 years back were quite clean. You don't have to think about air quality issues. But I just read one piece of news in the local newspaper that Odisha government is going to set up a plan for Bhubaneswar to be improve its air quality. So that itself shows that even not the big cities like Delhi or Mumbai or other cities, but even the tier 2, tier 3 cities are not free from this means issues of air quality. So that's why that is actually the problem. So that's why when we are asking the question that whether India could be the global hub for the clean air, better life, so that is the opportunity for us to make not only the air cleaner, but also to give the example, to set the example for the world that how we can be better. And coming to industry, because I am from power sector, and of course the thermal power, it is going to be phased down, phased out, means it will take time, because it is not going to be stopped in next 15, 20 years, even more than that. So that's why actually from air quality point of view, two things, that is, one is industry's own initiatives. Means back in 2003 or 4, there was a report, World Bank report, which was telling that the government policies are the drivers of clean technology adoption. But now, actually, we have to say that two drivers. That is, one is industry's internal strategy, and then combined with the government policies will drive the technology adoption. Because for industries, it is technology is going to solve their air pollution related issues. So that's why previously, if you see, it is only the government policies which were driving. But now actually it requires industry's own strategy as well. Because going forward, actually, I'll just explain a very good case study that how a thermal power plant just 100 kilometers away from the city is one of the good example that how the government policy and the company's own initiative is setting up an example of one of the cleanest thermal power plants in India. So with this, actually, I'll just stop here.
Thank you so much for those very heartening examples. Shantanu, we'll just go to Shubham. Let's hear from you.
Yeah, thank you, Mugdha. So we are sitting right now in one of the world's most polluted cities. And as Mr. Manas was saying, there are a couple of cities, in fact, in India, which are in the top 10 rankings. So we are already a hub of air pollution in that way. So for us, doing innovation in this sector is basically a necessity. And we do have, which also means we do have a big opportunity on what we can do towards it. India, being a country with such a rich human resource pool and being an entrepreneur, if we are able to work around setting up an ecosystem for entrepreneurs which fosters solution in tackling the air pollution problem, definitely we will be on that track. Second thing is technical innovation. So research in India allows us to be also affordable. And that is why the world can look towards India for developing solutions. In fact, we have a lot of solutions, especially innovative solutions, where entrepreneurs have been working on, say, making inks from depolluted air, making pigments, or say, Vidyut was telling about carbon tiles. So as Indians, we look into making opportunities out of problems. That is probably in our DNA. Third thing is also about government commitments. So if there is a market towards it, how government can play a role, especially in regulations or incentives, in driving the innovations. And I believe that if we are able to make things in India, we can make it for the world.
Thank you so much. And we'll hear Vidyut, your thoughts.
Thanks so much, Mukta. It's an honor to be here. I think I echo the points made by my fellow panelists. I think as a country, you name it, we have all sources of air pollution that are possible, right? And that, of course, is a big problem and a concern, but also provides us an opportunity. And what that means is that the country is a big test ground, and to try out different solutions, being in the biomass space or being in the vehicle space, transportation, industry space. There's just tremendous scope to pilot out different solutions, whether coming out from within the country itself or even coming from abroad. People are coming here to test it out. So that's a positive sign in terms of finding a solution and scaling a solution that is either developed or tested in India and then scaled from here. Secondly, as an entrepreneur, I have seen a lot of interest and support from different kinds of funding agencies who are either setting up different funds to tackle air pollution or business plan competitions, etc. And that's very encouraging. And this is locally within the country. I'm not even talking from outside. So that's encouraging a lot of entrepreneurs to get into this space, innovate, come up with solutions. And thirdly, there's a lot of technical skills available within the country. I mean, there's just a lot of talent available, and there's a lot of entrepreneurial hunger that I have seen being in this space myself, and people want to use the resources that are coming in and the problems that they've experienced firsthand in terms of air pollution and come up with a solution. So I think all these factors combined together will lead to more and more solutions coming out from the country.
Wonderful. So that sums it up neatly and lays the context for the remaining panel discussion as well, that India does truly have the potential not just for itself, but to lead the world in this domain. There is a significant unaddressed problem in the country, and because there is a problem, there is an opportunity or a market to address it, which is a great way of looking at it. And we have the talent to make affordable, innovative solutions available to this, to address this. There is a public discourse that is now going on about air pollution. It's more and more visible. Industry has taken it up, and in combination with enabling government policies, there will be an enabling environment to take it forward. So it's really a great platform that is available. It is for the field to grab it and move forward. Starting with this context, Manas, just to be a little bit more specific, how can the IT sector play a pivotal role in developing cutting-edge technological solutions to monitor and combat air pollution? What are some of the ongoing pilots or efforts in this field?
Sure, Mugdha. I'd like to preface my answer with two comments. One is that I think IT technology, as in IT, is only a small sliver of technology, and there are lots of technologists here who are probably doing equally important work or more important work. But that said, definitely there are lots of software solutions that already are out there, are being built. So I'll give you like 4 examples, right? So 3-4 examples. So you have, for example, the monitoring. So you have Ayurveda, for example, where you can see, you get a network of monitors, and you can see how the air quality is across the city. And then you have prediction. You have like urban emissions, and they are predicting patterns based on weather, etc., how the air quality is likely to be tomorrow, or even suffer, for example, right? Then you have, for the more organized industries, where you have, let's say, a factory that has emissions, there are ways to optimize the functioning of the factory to reduce emissions. And there's a lot of software, especially in the process industry, on how you manage emissions. But then at the other end of the spectrum, where you have waste being burned in some corner, there are reporting solutions. And right now, for example, many cities have some solution where you can actually report some waste burning. And at least in Gurgaon, where I live, if you actually report waste burning, a fire engine will come to put out the fire. So there is a change. There is a change. Yeah?
Wonderful to know. Thank you, Manas. Dimitri, with your extensive experience in air quality management, could you share some success stories where innovative tools or frameworks have been instrumental in effectively evaluating emission footprints? As Manas mentioned, you have data. After data collection, you model it and you predict what's going to happen, and then there are ways to reduce or optimize. There are many things. Of course, it's a simplified way of talking about air quality management. And so, what are some of those tools or frameworks that you would like to share with us?
Thank you for your question. My answer will be a little bit collinear with the previous speaker, with Manas. Yeah, but before giving some specific cases, some specific examples, I'd like to mention that we are not only about monitoring. So like monitoring or measuring concentration of different pollutants is only one part, and it's not that difficult. We also have very specific atmospheric models, models which allow us to predict how the pollutants will spread over the local territories. We have mathematical tools which allows us to solve direct and reverse problem. For example, we can define some sources of emissions. So it's a kind of complex system which consists of hardware, mathematical models, data analysis models, and platform as a software. It's very important. And our holistic solution allows, again, not only to understand air quality right now, but allows to understand the reasons for the observed air quality, find out emission sources, provide dynamical and statistical forecasts, and provide simulation tools which allow you to understand what will be long-term consequences of any managerial decision you make on the, for example, city management level. So it's very important, and that's what is air quality monitoring and management today. And yes, we have a lot of cases all over the world. Like one of the famous one is relevant to the pig farm. We have a big pig farm very close to city, and a lot of citizens and city managers, they thought that this farm is responsible for the odors in the city. And after we deploy air quality monitoring network and all necessary digital twins, which allows to predict how all these odors can spread, we found out that the reason and the source was different. It was a network of sewage pumping stations. And we helped this farm, we helped this city, to find out and to define. Yeah, that's very simple and very short. And if you allow just only one comment, I mean that application or that kind of digital twins which allow to solve these complicated and very important problems, they are not always allowed. I mean, there are some countries with very strict regulations where you cannot just apply these mathematical models to predict something, and that's a kind of problem. And hopefully, and not hopefully, but sorry, it's good that India is different, and that kind of innovative solutions can be applied here, and that's very nice.
Thank you, Dimitri. Dr. Shantanu, could you share some of the sustainable practices and measures your company has adopted to mitigate air pollution and reduce its emission footprint? Has this impacted the company's bottom line and operational efficiency?
Right, thanks, Mugdha. Bottom line, I am not sure directly, tangible, but once I give you this classic example, then you can see that how the intangible bottom line can be achieved if you take actions and take more futuristic actions to make yourself and your company more future-proof. So just I'm giving an example of, because I'll just speak about the power sector, and we have one power company, one thermal power plant at Jhajjar, Haryana. So that is 1320 megawatt, 1320 megawatt. Of course, it was 2012, and then after there is no investment in fossil fuel, and now it's mostly moving towards net zero or phasing out, phasing down. So that is actually the thermal power plant. We can say one of the cleanest thermal power plant in India. And talking about the air pollution, what are the air pollutions? Particulate matter, SOx, NOx, and of course, GHG, carbon dioxide. So quickly about NOx and particulate matter. So the plant is equipped with hybrid design, that is actually having the ESP along with back filters, which reduces another 50% of particulate matter emission. And on NOx, again there is SOFA, the overfired damper, which reduces more than 50% of NOx emissions. And the third one is very important, that is SOx, that is the FGD, flue gas desulfurization unit, so which is the new law came in 2015, and till now actually, I can say that we are the only thermal power plant in Delhi NCR region, and out of 600 units in India, only 4 or 5 are having FGD installed. Even the law came in 2015, the effective date was 2017, and now it's not that companies not wanting to do it, but the cost, 1,000 crores. The company, the size of plant like us, 1320, 1320 megawatt FGD installation now is 1,000 crores. So that is actually banks are still reluctant because you have the crossroad situation, because when you are telling about going towards decarbonization, then 1,000 crores investment for a technology in thermal power plant is not easy. So those are the challenges the power plants are facing, but it was decided at the commissioning of the plant to put FGD back in 2012, which is now giving us the benefit, not only being compliant, but also reducing the air pollution up to the extent of 80% or more. So just I was doing an internal calculation that SOx, of course the particulate matter is the main pollutant in Delhi, but SOx also reduces some particulate matter emission that is called pseudo carrier of particulate matter. This is one of the US EPA report says that how much amount. So just we calculated, it comes around, if our power plant is having FGD, reduces at least 10 microgram per meter cube of particulate matter, along with the 80 to 85% of SOx reduction. So these are the initiatives. When you take, actually, you drive the not only your company's agenda or strategy, but reducing the pollution and contributing towards not only the pollution, but also health around the plant or nearby areas. That is internal. But external, that is, you can see that what are the external initiatives. And Delhi, there are 4 major pollutions. One is from industry, one is from, you can say, construction, and of course the transportation, and 4th one is the stubble burning or crop residue burning. So then we can recall that when I was part of the task force back in 2017-18, then when we were discussing that we should have a paper published or a article, then actually I went back and just discussed internally that how we as an organization can contribute to reducing, not only just publish one paper, but how we can reduce. Then actually with CII team, actually we went to see one example at Punjab, then came back, then we started gradually with CII Foundation, then our CSR project started with 4 to 5 villages back in 17, and now actually in 2023, we are covering 30 to 35 villages and more than 50,000 acres of land free from stubble burning. And that also contributes around 85,000 of CO2 removal from the atmosphere. So how internally an organization and industry can take initiatives or adopt cleaner technologies, and externally also can explore that what are the possibilities they can explore to reduce air pollution. And third one, just last one, is the GHG. Of course, the technologies are there for SOx, NOx, or particulate matter, but for carbon dioxide, there is no rule. And but due to various pressures, and of course, we know the global warming main culprit is carbon dioxide. So that's why we are the second power company in India to get our science-based target validated to reduce the CO2 emission by 50% in next 4 years. So that is our initial target, and that will be achieving by adding at least 1,000 megawatt of renewable energy for next 5 years. So these are the industry-related initiatives that we are taking, not only because coal-based power plants cannot be stopped in next 10, 15, 20 years. So that's why actually how we can make the most efficient operation of the existing thermal power plants, and then, of course, to move towards the renewable energy. So that is actually my take on industry, particularly from the power sector.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's very interesting to note, and I'm very glad to know there is a nuanced understanding of the air that we breathe and GHG emissions in industry, and very specific action is being taken, and I'm hoping that it's available in the dynamic library for all to access some of the best practices that you mentioned. So thank you so much. Shubham, coming back to you, specifically for crust, how did you identify the potential of rice straw in addressing both packaging needs and air pollution? Could you share your motivation for committing to this innovation?
So my niece, she was born in New Delhi during one of the winter's month when there was a public health emergency being declared in the capital. Schools were shut. The government here was doing odd even with the transportation. And in the news, there were headlines that Delhi is a gas chamber. Living in Delhi is like smoking a pack of cigarettes. So we thought that let's buy an indoor air purifier because we had a newborn baby in our house. But it made me thinking that, so I'm a chemical engineer by background, and we are known to be polluters for a lot of things. And it just made me thinking that, we polluted our water. We have RO and water purifiers everywhere in every household. Now we are polluting our air, and the market has come up with indoor air purifiers. But is it really the solution to tackle the air pollution? And then I started investigating into the reasons of what is causing Delhi's air pollution. And one of the major contributors was crop burning in the neighboring states of Punjab and Haryana. I got into a fellowship program under BIRAC, Department of Biotechnology, which allowed me to look into this problem in depth. So I traveled to various parts of the country, spoke to farmers on why they are burning the crop, because that air which burns on the farm, it's the farmers who breathe that air first. Then it comes to our cities. But they said that they are helpless. And the reason was that they have a very short window to clear off their farms. If they're using machinery, it is expensive for them. If they have to clear off the fields manually, it is time consuming. But using a matchbox for a penny was the fastest and the easiest way for the farmers to get rid of the stubble. And that gave us the idea that whatever we do, whatever solution we create, we have to incentivize the farmers. We have to make them believe that do not burn this waste, you can instead make money out of it. And that's how Grass was born. And we started looking into applications. Packaging was one of them. And packaging is one field where if you see globally in today's situations, there's a complete mayhem happening because of acute shortage of raw material. In India, timber is banned, other than few government-approved plantations, and we heavily import our packaging needs from Scandinavian countries. Imagine there is pulp and paper coming from Sweden and Finland to India. And this gave us the idea that what if we are able to use this abundant crop waste, not only we will be able to solve the problem of crop burning, but also deforestation, because every year around 3 billion trees are cut for making packaging paper. And at the same time, we can also help our farmers earn their secondary income. So at Crust, so we are a social enterprise, we found a perfect opportunity between a social impact and a business.
Wonderful, Shubham. Thank you for sharing your personal journey and for making this very important point that air pollution is inequitable. There are people with resources who can opt for exposure reduction options, but then there are groups that are disproportionately impacted as well. So thank you for taking this on. Coming to you, Vidyut, similarly, what is Takachar's story and motivation for committing to transforming waste biomass into marketable products?
Thanks, Mugdha. So, I've been brought up in Delhi, so, exposed to the air pollution problem since my childhood. It has always been there. And having studied biomass technology in university, I was always attracted to solving, the crop residue aspect of this issue. And the reason why biomass is really, really important. Because in the process of solving for air pollution, one should not create other problems in deploying the solution in terms of, greenhouse gas emissions, or just taking away the air pollution problem from one place and putting it into another place where people are less enfranchised, right? So it was, biomass for me was a way of getting into the air pollution problem space from an environmental justice perspective, where rural communities who are impacted most by the impacts of climate change and air pollution, they become stakeholders in the fight against air pollution and climate change itself. So, utilizing their own resources that is available to them to create value for them and make them more resilient, but also at the same time addressing problems of air pollution and climate change. But also, whenever one works with biomass, it leads to multidimensional benefits. It leads to, of course, addressal of air pollution. It leads to avoiding greenhouse gas emissions, but also sequestering greenhouse gas emissions. It also leads to a decentralization of technology if done in the right way, and creates rural value and brings a value creation process to the doorstep of rural communities. So that's what attracted me to this entire space. And what we essentially do are these, we make these small-scale, low-cost, portable machines that farmers can basically use to convert their agricultural waste into a carbon-rich output. That could be either used to put back into the soil, so that leads to an increase in crop yields for farmers, but also at the same time acts as a carbon removal tool, which puts the carbon in the soil on a 1,000-year time scale, which along with avoidance of carbon emissions is a necessary target for net zero, right? Because for net zero, you need both. You need to suck out carbon from the atmosphere and keep it somewhere for a long duration of time as well. And also, from an air pollution perspective, we are able to prevent all that open burning of biomass and also convert that to valuable byproducts.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vidyut, and thank you, everybody, for this first set of questions, for giving us hope that the situation is not completely hopeless. We have minds like yourselves, we have industry, entrepreneurs like yourselves actually working diligently on it, on actionable solutions. So I hope you have been able to inspire and maybe attract some funding as we go along. My next set of questions, we'll keep it very, very brief. We spoke about the problem, we spoke about enablers, we spoke about what are the pilots and efforts that are being done. I wonder if we were to make it like we mentioned, a movement, right? For movement building, how do we get the field more energized? So I would like to ask you first, Manas, how do you see this? What are some of the potential synergies between technology companies and other organizations in the field, other stakeholders, and how can we foster this collaboration?
See, I think the role of industry leaders is to be leaders and to drive this change. And we have to really have the fire in us to stop the smoke, maybe, we have done a bunch of different things in different, I can talk about my company, for example. We stopped using single-use plastics along with WWF, and then we challenged the Boston Consulting Group and NASSCOM, et cetera, to not have single-use plastics. Today, it is very common to not have single-use plastics in an event like this, but it was a first, right? We spawned Rahagiri. Rahagiri is the car-free Sunday. A lot of our focus was on emissions by the car and the car-oriented city design. So Rahagiri was, so we helped spawn Rahagiri. We have done many other things. Like, for example, just outside our office, there's a 2 or 3 kilometer road which we are building to accommodate pedestrians and cyclists and not cut down the 300 trees that were there and make it a 6-lane road. So we had to fight a lot with the government to convince them that this is the better way of developing a city. So there's a bunch of that going on. And right now, for example, we are running a 1,000,000 kilometers challenge inside the company, that we will try to cycle 1,000,000 kilometers across the company. So it's these kinds of things that you do internally and then in your community and try to bring about change. I think that we have the privilege that we are not seen as NGOs, so the government listens to us slightly more seriously. And we say it's a quality of life issue. A software programmer can be anywhere in the world why would they live in this smoke and that's like soup, chemical soup, right? So that's kind of what we have been trying to do over the last years.
Wonderful. And Dimitri, how do you envision your role, your organization's role in fostering partnerships between various stakeholders, businesses, governments, and communities to collectively work towards clean air?
First of all, we do believe that clean air challenge, clean air problem can't be solved by any company, any organization alone. A lot of technologies, a lot of products, a lot of efforts should be joined to solve this problem. And here we have like a couple of ideas. The first one is rather technical. We think that it is quite good and perspective idea to use a kind of platform, I'm talking about software level, which will help to unite, to integrate different products, different technologies, different roles, and different players on the clean air market. It's based on our previous experience and believe that it will help to form this market and to promote a lot of clean air solutions. And another idea is rather organizational. Probably it will be useful to create a kind of innovation center, clean air innovation center, and a special venture fund, which will help high-tech startups in the field of clean air to find investors, to go through like local difficulties, and to develop and commercialize the technologies globally. In classic venture capital terminology, we can say we might call it a kind of accelerator, like very famous Techstars or Y Combinator, but exclusively devoted to the startups related to clean air or environmental projects. And we believe that that kind of initiative will help India to become that clean air technology hub. And we are ready to contribute, we are ready to share our experience. So that's our vision. Thank you.
Dr. Shantanu, how do you think other businesses can be encouraged to strike a balance between economic growth and adopting environmentally sustainable practices?
Yeah, it is actually two things I'd like to mention here, that this can be the movement from industry perspective can be done in two ways. One is industry and government collaboration, and second is industry and industry collaboration. Because also just would like to give two examples here that how the industry government collaboration or the government policies can help, and second is how the industry and industry collaboration can help to make it a mass movement. And of course, what I mentioned about the clean air research center or technology center, so this can be led by the industries, means that then actually it will create a real movement, because now industries are mostly doing their actions individually. But if it can be done in a collaborative way, then it will multiply, it will be a force multiplier. For example, the crop residue management doing by one industry, but if 10 big industries can collaborate, they can make it further more effective, impactful, and also more sustainable. And also they can learn from each other on a continuous basis. That is one thing. And second is the industry and government. And you see now, actually the Ministry of Power has come up with the policy for co-firing of biomass for the thermal power plants. And because we have, of course, one logged-in investment in the thermal power plant, and when the policy came, when we tried, actually our boiler make was not suitable to even put 0.1% of biomass with our coal. There is risk of fire before it goes to the burner. But through continuous dialogue with government and external studies and further retrofitting or modifying the burner or the boiler, now actually we are able to at least fire 1% of biomass with the coal. And till now, we have at least fired around 18 to 20,000 tons, and that has avoided around 15 to 16,000 tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And also that is helping to reduce the burning from the crop residue, which we are facing in Delhi and NCR region. So actually, when the government policy collaborated with the industry initiatives, then it becomes also effective. And also not only 1%, there is further actually investment or further actions are ongoing to improve it to 4 to 5% or more than 5%. So these are the two things I'd like to mention, that industry collaboration and industry government
Very well put.
to take the movement further.
Thank you, Shantanu. Very well put. Coming to our entrepreneurs, Shubham, how can we create a more supportive ecosystem for clean air startups?
So from my experience and from my journey, I have like 3 points, depending on the stage of the startup. The first one is the ideation stage where, there is a need to create more innovators who can come into this field. It could be through fellowships programs. So for example, I started my entrepreneurial journey through a fellowship program, gave me a really good exposure through certain government grants, which are mainly focused around developing POCs. Incubators can play definitely a very important role in nurturing these ideas. The second stage is basically acceleration stage, where startups who already have product in hand, that's where the corporates can come into the picture. So in today's room, we have a lot of people coming from corporates, where they can actively engage with startups who have innovative ideas, and it's a win-win for both the enterprise and the startup in that way. Corporates are always looking for innovative solutions, and startups have those. So that acceleration would help them in doing some kind of customer validation. The third thing is market ready. So once you have a product which you can start supply into the market, that's where government can play some important role in, say, providing some kind of tax incentives to these startups. So one of the problems that we face as startup is that we can't get into volumes on day one, right? And then it becomes incredibly difficult for us to compete with some of the existing materials where the client wants us to deliver at a cost because they are getting a cheaper product as other products are at a volume. So that's where government incentives and some kind of regulatory support can provide a fair field for the startups to compete into the market.
It's very well put, Shubham. Thank you, Vidyut. To hear from you, what role can the air quality field play to support and advance clean air solutions and innovations?
Sure. So, again, I'll speak from a startup's perspective. So from someone who has developed a solution and is trying to enter the market, it would really help, say from working with another business, to see how decarbonization of value chains or removing air pollution from value chains can happen. So corporates or larger businesses can play that role to see where in their value chain they see more improvements in environmental performance in terms of air pollution or other climate change related aspects. And that's where startups like mine or Shubham's can fit in and plug that gap and be able to, provide a solution within that value chain. So, and that helps in providing an offtake market for us as well, right? Because we have come up with a technical solution, and we don't want to build an entire market ourselves. And we would ideally like to be able to transform value chains that are existing, and that's where working with corporates really helps. From a government's perspective, I would say providing a level playing field in competing with existing fossil-based solutions, because I see a lot of artificially created green premiums for new solutions like ours to compete against. Just for example, the subsidies on chemical fertilizers, right? It's like impossible to compete for any new innovative green fertilizer product with subsidized chemical fertilizers. Urea is available at 6.5 rupees per kg, and that's an artificially created green premium. So either you make it easy for other innovative solutions, once they are validated and recognized, to also be part of the subsidy program or remove the subsidy program altogether and create a level playing field. So I think that would be, those kind of things are, creating a level playing field is something really important for solutions like ours to scale.
Oh, wonderful. You've said this and you've touched upon this already. So I'm going to now just pose a last final question to the panel, just to make it, end it at a note, which is a call to action. We spoke about enablers or driving factors at the beginning of the conversation. At the end, I'd like to hear from you about the barriers that are holding us back on the path towards becoming a global innovation hub for clean air solutions. And what, in your opinion, should we do about it to set us on the right track? Just a 60-second sound bite would be wonderful. So we will just go in this order. So start with you first, Vidyut.
I think from a barriers perspective, I think the solutions are out there. It's about, from a startup's perspective, there needs to be this matchmaking happening between all the solutions that are there and where those solutions can be used and who can pay for that solution. I think that matchmaking needs to happen in a more efficient way, because I see both ends of the spectrum. I see people who are interested. I see solutions out there, but everything is not very clearly visible. I think that will help in really accelerating adoption. And secondly, for hardware-based solutions to arise out of India, we just need more amount of R&D funding that's available from a lot of government programs, particularly because this does take time. It took us 5-6 years to develop this solution. These are hardware solutions, and they take time, money, and investment. And the government has created a really good ecosystem right now, but the value of support for the R&D grants need to increase.
Wonderful. Matchmaking and R&D funding. Shantanu?
Yeah, same. Actually, and the capital cost is the main problem, and that can be tackled by, actually one is incentivizing who are doing better, so that is from government, and also it can be, for example, the emission trading scheme can be established not only for carbon credit or carbon trading, but also for others, particulate matter, SOx, NOx, all this trading within the companies. That will help actually not even to government to spend money. It can be traded internally. And faster policies, for example, as thermal power plants are going to, even other sectors are going to be there for next 15-20 years, then carbon capture and use, whether that is a viable solution. So that actually the government policy only can decide this. And we need also the faster decisions in these few areas like carbon capture and utilization. So that actually will help to address the challenge of capital cost.
Very nicely put. Thank you, Shantanu. Dimitri, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, again, as a technology entrepreneur, I believe that all the limits are internal, and like everything depends on us. Well, from the other side, I believe that in 100 years, the air will be clean over the planet, and it doesn't depend on us. Speaking about like this current historical period, I believe that air quality is quite sensitive subject, and that's a little bit difficult to, to say that yes, we have these kind of problems and we have to do something to solve them. And I think that we have to be brave enough to admit that there are that kind of problems and start solving them, and stop being afraid, presenting that problems that you have it on your side. Yeah. So sorry, it's a little bit spontaneous, but it's my understanding.
Thank you, Dimitri. Manas?
Slightly taking off on Dimitri's point, I think we need to stop externalizing the problem. We think, oh, it's the Diwali folks, crackers, it's the farm burning, it's the this and that. It's us. And if all of us were not wearing jackets, we would not need the air conditioning and we'd not be releasing the CO2. We need to make big changes, brave changes, I think, to the way we are. And I think we need to make it an electoral issue. there is no vote bank for air pollution, and there are lots of vested interests, quote unquote vested interests in different areas. We need to make it an electoral issue, I think.
Yeshua?
So I believe collaboration is a very important point if we have to become a hub for global innovation. And I think that's where organizations like CII can play a very important role. And imagine if like-minded people can come together, can have knowledge sharing, can pool in the resources, especially entrepreneurs who are always lack of funds. There can be a massive impact. So I'll give you one example from my experience. So we worked with a startup which disinfects sanitary pads, and they were struggling to dispose of the disinfected sanitary pads. So we had the expertise in developing packaging solutions. So we took their waste and we created world's first home printable sanitary pads paper, something which nobody might have, you can't like even thought about, that you can make paper out of sanitary pads. So likewise, collaborations where you bring in your experience, another person brings in your experience, rather than reinventing the wheel, can not only save time, but can also bring solutions faster to the market. So at the end, I would want to conclude by saying, so Mahatma Gandhi ji has said that, be the change you want to see in the world. But I just add on to it saying that together we can be the change that we want to see in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for ending at that wonderful, hopeful note, Shubham. I'm going to throw open for questions from the audience. What a wonderful audience you've been so far, so patiently engaged and listening into the discussion on stage. So any questions? This gentleman at the back. So just a request, do you have a question or an observation?
It's question, maybe an observation.
Are you directing it at somebody specific on the panel?
Anyone can. See, basically, air pollution is someone talked about making it an electoral issue. So basically, I mean, a lot of the discussion that we are having are technology, etc. But a lot of consumer awareness, a lot of citizen involvement is also required. And I mean, I don't know if that there is something that even the corporate sector can do about it.
Wonderful. Thank you for that very insightful question. Actually, Manas is very well placed to answer that because of your already experience with citizen engagement.
Yeah, so we try to start with a company. We have about 15,000 people in India. So we are doing surveys, for example. One example, people say that they're willing to spend 10,000 rupees more a year if they can get clean air, right? So with surveys, with all these other motivational activities, we're getting at least them sensitized and trying to go beyond that to the city administration, etc. We're trying all kinds of things. We held perhaps the India's biggest anti-air pollution event with a couple of thousand people when the air got really bad a few years ago. We're trying our best, yeah, but we need a lot more such activities, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Manas. No, I think there is a lot of effort going, which is slightly scattered at the moment to answer your question. And there is some sort of catalytic support needed to make it more coordinated. And hopefully we'll get there. So at the back.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
We are all talking about net zero by 2030, 2050, like that. There is a recently published article about this forest going to actually release carbon dioxide rather than absorb them by, I think, by 2070, if I'm not mistaken. So how do you think, I mean, if this is really I mean, what do you call, as a fact, then it would be a serious problem for the net zero solution.
Is this directed at somebody specific?
Anybody can answer.
Anybody would like to take that?
So, yeah, generally the dynamics and the science of this is a bit complex, but forest fires also are a very big issue from an air pollution perspective. And that's definitely there, and that's increasingly becoming more and more common as we are seeing that in the news these days. From a climate change perspective, you're definitely right in the sense that if a lot of that burning happens, if there is the forest waste is wet, then you're going to have a lot of methane emissions that are going to be given off. And that's going to even exacerbate climate change even more. So, yeah, I mean, those are my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, let's take it offline.
I'm sorry, it's not the forest fires.
Yeah.
Actually, what is going to happen is the absorption rate comes to so low that it starts releasing the carbon dioxide.
Certainly.
So it's
may
the
I
other way.
request we take it offline? Our next panel is waiting. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. My apologies, but the panel is available for a while, and we can, carry forward the conversation. Truly, my apologies. But like I said, thank you so much to my esteemed panelists for being so wonderful and sharing your insights with us. And thank you so much to the audience. I think you should all appreciate yourself with a little bit of applause. Thank you so much.
When we draw curtains to our session, we thank our distinguished dignitaries and our moderator for an engaging discussion. I kindly request all the speakers to gather for a group photograph.